Hey everyone, this is Libertarian Black Man. I want to talk about Michigan's auto insurance issue because this one has personal meaning to me as a Michigan resident. And what is the issue? Michigan has the highest auto insurance rates of any state in America. One of the reasons for this is that Michigan has no-fault insurance. Now, it is not the only state. 12 others have no-fault insurance, but Michigan has a unique kind of no-fault insurance. Now, let's talk about what is no-fault insurance for those who don't know. No-fault insurance is when, according to the website alllaw.com, it's when your own automobile insurer will pay some or all of your medical bills and lost earnings if you get into a car accident. And this is the key word to look at, regardless of who was at fault for the crash. So if somebody crashes into you, your auto insurance will pay for any damages and injuries you incur. If you crash into someone else, if you are being irresponsible by, say, texting behind the wheel, being distracted in some other way, being drowsy, and you are careless enough to run your car into someone else and cause them injury and damage, your auto insurer will also pay for your bills as well as for the bills of the person that you have inflicted. This is directly in opposition to what fault-based insurance is, which most states in the country have. In this kind of insurance, insurers only pay the driver for auto accident-related costs if they are found to be not at fault in causing the accident, meaning if they cause the accident, they don't get paid. They wreck their car, they may have medical bills as a result of getting hurt in the accident that they caused, but the insurer won't pay for it because they were responsible for causing that. But under no-fault insurance, both sides get compensated because no one is being found to be at fault in that situation. Therefore, both sides who incur costs as a result of the crash get compensated by the insurer. No-fault insurance began in the 1970s with 12 states, and there were others too, but these are the 12 states: Massachusetts, Florida, New Jersey, Michigan, which I have highlighted because there's something unique about their no-fault law, which I'm about to get to, Kansas, Utah, New York, Hawaii, Kentucky, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Pennsylvania. All of them began their no-fault, establishing their no-fault codes in the 1970s and continue to have them to this day. What is unique about Michigan's no-fault code is that it is the only state to offer unlimited lifetime medical care for auto-related injuries under its no-fault insurance system. So what this means is if you get hurt, then your injuries will be paid for, treatment for your injuries will be paid for the rest of your life, regardless of how much they cost over time by the auto insurance company. And the Michigan Code requires drivers to purchase PIP, that's personal injury protection coverage, that includes the following: lifetime benefits for medical care, rehabilitation, and other types of ongoing post-injury care. 85% of the injured's lost income for 3 years if he or she becomes unable to work. $20 a day for 3 years for replacement services, meaning a maid, a gardener, or someone who works around the house to do things that you want done if your injuries prevent you from being able to carry out those tasks yourself. And in the event of death, 3 years of lost wages for your entire family. The more family members you have, the higher, most likely, the compensation rate will be, or the higher your income, I should say. The higher your income, the more money that the insurer will have to pay. But it also covers family members and their expenses if they have unique circumstances that that need to be paid for. Earlier in the decade, our governor Rick Snyder and Republicans have been pushing for reform in terms of auto insurance to curb the rising costs. And the governor, in his 2013 State of the State address, referenced that Michigan had the most expensive car insurance rates in the nation. Of course, because when you not only have no-fault insurance, which requires the insurance company to pay for both sides of the insurance damages for an auto accident, then you have you're going to have rising costs because you're paying for two sides of an accident instead of just one. Then you have the law that requires unlimited lifetime medical coverage, which means that the sky is the limit. It doesn't matter if it costs $1 million to treat you, the insurance company must pay. If it costs $1 million per year for the rest of your life, the insurance company must pay. It is required by law. And there's been talk about doing something about this provision in the no-fault insurance code in Michigan, but it's a controversial issue, unfortunately, because the medical community and accident victims are standing against it. Accident victims, you can understand, are against it because they're being compensated for all the injury and the damages that they have incurred. But the medical community in particular has a vested interest in high insurance rates because they are being compensated at higher and higher levels as the insurance company is required to pay for them to treat accident victims. Here is a document that was put out in 2011 when the debate over auto insurance rates in Michigan was heating up, put out by the Michigan Society of the Michigan State Medical Society. And of course the title, Protecting Michigan Auto No-Fault Insurance. They make it very clear where they stand on this by saying that insurance companies promoted legislation that sparked a statewide debate on the future of Michigan's no-fault insurance system, claiming that on one side is the insurance industry, which wants to reduce costs, saying that the current system is unsustainable, and it is. They're correct about that. And on the other side is basically the medical community. The Michigan State Medical Society, among other healthcare providers and consumer advocates and patients, are on the side of keeping this ridiculous law that forces insurance companies to pay unlimited medical bills for auto accident victims. So again, the medical community gets paid to treat accident victims. They want to get paid more. They want the government to force the insurance companies to pay them more. This is corporatism. This is a private industry using the government to basically shake down the taxpayer, to shake down the citizens of Michigan, instead of just being a free market where people can choose whether or not they're going to have insurance, and insurance companies can choose what they're going to cover and compete against each other. The medical community successfully lobbied for and is now protecting the current law, which forces the insurance companies to bear costs that are above and beyond what they can sustain. One of the reasons why people hate politicians so much is because they always like to talk the talk, but they never walk the walk. When it comes to auto insurance rates in Michigan, Governor Rick Snyder said in his State of the State address in 2013, quote, "Let me set the stage on auto insurance in Michigan. We are the 10th most expensive state in the nation in terms of no fault, in terms of claims coming in, the severity of claims. We far exceed every other state in how expensive our claims are." That's 100% true. Then he goes on, the average claim in Michigan is $44,000. The next two states is $17,000 and $10,000. And that leads to the high auto insurance costs for people, our citizens, our customers. And we have 3 of the top 10 most expensive cities for auto insurance. Detroit at number 1, Novi at number 6, and Muskegon at number 9. Then he says, it's time for some reforms, folks. And 2 reforms I am talking about are, 2 of the reforms I am talking about are, first, we should reform no fault. It's time to do that in a thoughtful way. Now he stops right there. He doesn't actually explain what reform he wants to do. He just says we should reform no fault and do it thoughtfully. Now, after talking about that, which he spends 2 sentences on, and he starts talking about insurance fraud as if this is a huge reason why Michigan has the highest level of auto insurance costs in the nation. It's not, but he wants to pivot over to insurance fraud after saying a few words about reforming no fault with no specifics. Then claims that the insurance industry and financial services industries are so important that he signed an executive order to create the Department of Insurance and Financial Services, another government bureaucracy, another agency that is going to create more paperwork, more administrative costs for consumers and the taxpayer. What Governor Snyder and all of the legislators in Michigan need to understand is that we do not need reform. Michigan insurance regulations demand repeal, not reform. Reform just means you want to keep the law and change it so that it is different from what it was before. This is a bad law that's driving up costs, and we don't need to change it. We need to eliminate it. We need to follow in the footsteps of 4 other states that also created no-fault laws back in the 1970s, but repealed them in the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s. Nevada, Georgia, Connecticut, and Colorado made the right decision after they realized after a few years that this was not a good thing for their people. They repealed their no-fault laws. They didn't reform them. They didn't change them or modify them. They got rid of them. So this is something Michigan needs to do. Also, Michigan needs to make auto insurance optional. It does not and it should not be requiring people to purchase auto insurance. Let's look at a state that's actually doing this. New Hampshire is the only state in the country that does not mandate auto insurance for its drivers. What they do instead is that drivers only need to prove they are able to pay for damages in the case of an at-fault accident. Drivers in New Hampshire who opt out of the insurance system must basically post bond or cash equal to the amount of damage caused in a crash, according to coverhound.com, which sells insurance. So what they need to do in Michigan is make it optional, and then people will be responsible for any damage or injury they cause if in fact they are engaging in activity that leads to an accident. Interesting how 13% of American drivers in America were uninsured in 2013 according to the Insurance Research Council. But what's even more interesting is that in Michigan we have among the highest rates of uninsured drivers. 20.3% of Michigan drivers do not have insurance. They're driving around uninsured. In New Hampshire, where they don't even require you to have insurance, they have a lower rate of uninsured drivers, 9.9%. That is lower than the national average of 13%. Michigan is in the top 5 states with the highest level of uninsured drivers, over 20%. And only 5 states have over 20% of their drivers who are uninsured. Michigan requires you to have insurance, and they have a higher level of uninsured drivers. New Hampshire does not require you to have insurance, and they have a lower rate of uninsured drivers because the people in New Hampshire just said, you know, we're going to be responsible. We're going to take care of ourselves, and we know that we want to have insurance to protect us if we cause an accident. In New Hampshire's state slogan, I believe, is live free or die. So they don't regulate anywhere near as much as other states do. That is what we should be doing in Michigan, is having people be free to decide whether or not they're going to purchase auto insurance, and the insurance company should also be free to decide what coverage they're going to provide, instead of forcing insurers to cover everything that could ever happen for both sides of an auto accident. We have the highest cost in the nation. Strictly for that reason, we don't need reform. We need repeal. This law is ridiculous, and it's costing me and many other residents a fortune. We pay more for insuring the car than we do for purchasing the car in many cases. So let's scrap this law. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and the Twitter page, Libertarian Black Man, and we hope to see you in the next video.